Good morning. This is for the first year BS students. We are going to have the classes on the Upanishads. We have already seen some introduction into Upanishads. Now we are going into detail with regard to what we have briefly said about the Upanishads. Upanishads constitute the end part of the four Vedas. The four Vedas are Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Samaveda, Atharva Veda. So what constitutes the end part of the Vedas are called Upanishads. Therefore, it is also called Vedanta, end of Vedas. We have already dealt with Vedas. What are the importance of Vedas? When did it originate? And what are the constituent elements of the Vedas? And the four important Vedas: Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Samaveda, Atharva Veda. Now, what is our attention here is about the end of Vedas, or Vedanta, or the Upanishadic teachings. So all the four Vedas, one of the constituent elements is Upanishads. So that is what we can say at the very beginning of the Upanishads. Vedanta school of philosophy is derived mainly from the knowledge of Upanishads only. It has many branches such as the Dvaita Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, Vishishtadvaita, Dvaita Dvaita, and so on. So mainly we can say the Vedanta school of philosophy is derived mainly from the knowledge of the Upanishads. So Upanishads has given the Vedas much more deeper value than the rest of it. And so many branches which we may deal the later time, that is Dvaita Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, Vishishtadvaita Vedanta, Dvaita Advaita, and so on. All these schools acknowledge Brahman as the highest reality and the whole creation as the manifestation, emanation of projection, representing the alternate reality of the illusion or the Maya. So Brahman, the highest authority or supreme reality, and the manifestation of him, which is called the alternative reality as Maya. Understanding Brahman and our relationship with him is crucial to spiritualize our lives and achieve liberation by practicing Dharma, exemplifying God's eternal disputes upon earth. In short, we can say that what is Upanishads? That is the something which gives greater value to Vedas. It is coming to the end of Vedas, or it is also called Vedanta, end of Vedas, Veda plus Anta. So they represent the highest of Vedic religion and also of Hinduism. So in the course of time, we will come to know that what is dealt more is with the Vedanta or the Upanishadic teaching. What is summarized there? So the whole of teaching is summarized into this philosophy, Vedanta philosophy, or the end of Vedas, what is being taught, the philosophical aspect, and that has given much more research into the Vedas. That is, the Upanishads has given much more deeper study, involvement of many intellectual pursuit for understanding what is this Upanishadic teaching. So when we hear about Upanishad, then we will ask, what's the meaning of Upanishads? There are three interpretations given to the word Upanishads. The first one, two possible traditional meanings have been ascribed to the word Upanishad, plus one more, that is the three type of interpretations are given. According to the first, the traditional way of understanding what is Upanishad. Upanishads means Upa plus Ni plus Sat. That is how we divide that term Upanishad, consisting of three aspects. Upa plus Ni plus Sat means sitting near or down. It refers to the way Upanishads were taught to the students in ancient India. So sit nearby listening to a guru, and usually the guru is seated on an elevated platform and the students are sitting little or below and listening or sitting at the feet of the master or the teacher or the guru and listening to the teaching or paying attention to that. The knowledge of Upanishads was confined to few teachers who were either Kshatriyas or Brahmins. They directly passed on the message or knowledge to in person to a few select students according to their merit under the oath of secrecy. So that's how it was being given or taught. So only few students were admitted, and that's also very selective. So a guru will have his say on the number of participants, and there is a period of probation given to these students to know the aptitude of theirs. Only then the guru will accept them to be in his company or to be among the students under him. So during this probation period, various tests are given in order to ascertain how much of aptitude, how much of grasp, how much of interest a person or the one of the pupils have got in order to ascertain where he will be able to really study the Upanishadic teachings. And there is, it was always limited to very few hands, and the teachers were either Kshatriyas or the Brahmins, and they were the teachers, and a few selected students to whom it is imparted in person. So it was person to person or mouth to mouth. Oral tradition was the beginning stages of all the teachings. So what they had been taught and they have grasped, this would be given to next generation the same way, that is through oral tradition. Since the knowledge was taught to the students who sat near the master at a lower level at his feet, while the master sat on a higher seat, that is asana, his teaching was called Upanishad. So that is the one traditional way of understanding what is the meaning of the word Upanishad. Since secrecy was associated along with this teaching, therefore this knowledge was, Upanishad is also known as secret knowledge or Gudah, or at most secret knowledge Adi Gudaha. So there was a secrecy involved in it, and therefore it was not given to everyone. Only a selected few were taken or accepted for this type of learning, that is Upanishadic learning, or the teacher would impart that knowledge to the few selected students, and always very, very few, not too many. Not like the education system of today, so many are in one classroom. Such a way of, it was not there. It was Gurukula teaching. A guru will have a few students with whom he is often associated or living with, and he would know the real aptitude of each student, and depending on the capacity of the pupil, the knowledge would be imparted. And that's one traditional meaning of the term Upanishad. And this is very important in the sense, or the deep philosophical teaching it is, and which has given much more deeper understanding of Vedas, what are they containing of, or a research work had been initiated into the Vedas on account of the Upanishadic teaching. So what is the connection between, or the relation between this Hinduism, Upanishadic teaching, and what's the relation between the Vedas and Upanishad and all that? we come to know that because of this teaching or the importance that is given to Upanishad, a great or timeless saying it is, or teaching, or depth of the teaching or the philosophy involved in it is really great, the thought. And for that matter, it is beyond religion. It is not just limited to Hinduism alone, but it can be the truth which is found there can be taken to all the religion, because it is beyond the religion alone. It's a deeper awareness or understanding of the Supreme. And that's why all this, especially the Upanishadic teaching, is always telling about the supremacy of Brahman and his manifestation, what is seen, the alternative reality, as the illusion or the Maya, and what is the understanding of that. So that is the thought that is taking us. So what we are trying to understand is the very term, that is Upanishad. Upanishad. Sit nearby, listening to the teacher, learning from him, to selected few students, and the teacher seated on an elevated platform. From there he is imparting the teaching, and the students who are seated below, and they are listening and grasping that. So that's one of the interpretation. According to the second interpretation, that's a traditional interpretation of the word, that is Upanishad, means the knowledge which destroys the bonds of ignorance and leads to liberation. The knowledge which destroys ignorance and leads to liberation, that is the second type of, or second interpretation that is given to the word Upanishad. The aim of the knowledge, the teaching, is dispel the darkness of ignorance. Asathoma sadgamaya, tamasoma jyotirgamaya. So lead us from, that is from darkness to light, from ignorance to knowledge. So that is the real liberation that is going to take place. When knowledge comes, ignorance is dispelled. Second traditional interpretation given to the word, the Upanishad, is that the knowledge which dispels the darkness, and that leads to liberation. Liberation is the ultimate aim in every religion, that you are going to be free, you are going to reach that liberation wherein that is no more of that bondage. So in the whole of Indian philosophy, you will find that there is a lot of things which ties you down to this earth, the bondage. So every action produces its result, and the karmic effects then that gets accumulated, and then man has to work in such a way to get rid of all the karmic principles or the karma, the accumulation of karma effect. Only then the liberation is going to come. So the teaching is towards that. And why this happens, or what's the cause of this ignorance? It is avidya. And what's the cause of this avidya? Then that is the true knowledge about the phenomenal world. We are not aware of it, what it is. So we take it for granted that is something, or we take it for the reality, and therefore we give a false value to the phenomenal world, and there we get bound, and we are not able to free ourselves from that. That is the reason or the cause of the avidya. And therefore true knowledge is going to lead you from ignorance to knowledge, and then to liberation. Liberate you or give you the correct knowledge. The knowledge of the Upanishad is essentially the knowledge of Supreme Self, that is Brahman. The true knowledge is the Supreme Self of Brahman and the individual self, Atman. So these two, Brahman and Atman, the highest principle and the lower principle, that is Atman. The relationship between these two, Brahman and Atman. Knowledge of these two eternal realities is considered true knowledge or pure knowledge is called Sat. In contrast to the worldly knowledge, Asat, which is temporary and which leads to ignorance, delusion, and bondage to the circle of births and deaths. So here we speak of two types of knowledge, Sat and Asat. Sat means a true knowledge. And what is a true knowledge? The knowledge about the supreme reality and the individual self. That is the Brahman and Atman, the true identity between them. So the moment the Atman is realizing its true identity, that Aham Brahmasmi, I and the Brahman one and the same, or Tattvamasi, thou art that. That's a realization, the true identity of the self. So self need to come to the awareness of that the supreme reality and that of the individual self, it is one and the same. That is the real identification. As long as you are not able to get that reality or understand that reality, then we are going to have the Asat, the knowledge of the world, which is leading you into bondage, ignorance, delusion, and considered to be, that is keeping you under bondage and not giving you the real liberation. So the true knowledge is going to lead you into the liberation. So when true knowledge dawns, ignorance goes, and thus leading you to liberation. So when you feel that not liberated, you are still under the clutches of the bondage. Since the knowledge of the Upanishad destroys ignorance, it is considered liberating knowledge. The knowledge given in the Upanishad is said to be liberating knowledge, which destroys the ignorance, and therefore it is called the liberating knowledge. In his commentary on Taittiriya Upanishad, Sri Shankaracharya suggested that Upanishads meant that which lead to the highest bliss. What probably meant was that the knowledge of the Upanishads would lead to eternal bliss by destroying bondage and suffering. So that is how the Acharyas have considered Upanishad. What is Upanishad? So in his commentary on the Taittiriya Upanishad, Sri Shankaracharya suggested that Upanishads meant that which lead to the highest bliss. What probably meant was that the knowledge of the Upanishad would lead to eternal bliss, destroying the bondage and suffering. So all the time our aim is to how to liberate oneself. Religion is supposed to be telling you or helping you, leading you into the liberation or the possibility of that, showing the way to liberation. So take any religion and that will show the pathway to liberation. One of the essential aspects of a religion is that, leading to you to liberation. So we have the true traditional interpretation of the word, that is Upanishad. That is Upa plus Ni plus Shad, sit nearby listening to the teacher. That is one of the interpretation. Second one is the knowledge which dispels the darkness and thus leads you to liberation. So liberative knowledge, that is what is contained in the Upanishads. Therefore, that is something which gives you the real knowledge, that is the knowledge of the eternal principles of the Atman and Brahman, or Brahman and Atman, the highest reality and the self. So the true identity of the self, realizing that it lies in the highest or the supreme reality, Aham Brahmasmi, I and the Brahman one and the same, or Tattvamasi, thou art that. So that is the realization. So that dispels all other darkness or all are the bondages, you become liberated. So a liberative knowledge which is contained in the Upanishad. Now we go to a third interpretation of the word Upanishad. A third interpretation is also possible, which leads to the same meaning. Upa means usually a used prefix to a verb or a noun that has several meanings. So upa, upadesha, that is it's a prefix, upa. It means an advice, an instruction of a teacher, reverence or worship, and nearness to or proximity in space, number, time, or degree. So that could be another interpretation of the word Upanishad. Upa is a prefix, either to a noun or a verb, which has got various meanings of that. The traditional interpretations of the Upanishads take the last meaning into consideration. If we go by the other meanings, Upanishads means an instruction or advice by a teacher in close proximity from a higher ground of awareness, that is Upa, to the student sitting below, Ni, regarding the destruction, Shad, of ignorance and bondage, etc. So that way we can give a connection to all the three types of interpretation what we have heard regarding the Upanishad. So one is about the real literal meaning, Upa plus Ni plus Shad, Upanishad. Second one is knowledge dispelling the darkness, or the ignorance is removed through true knowledge. And the real knowledge, that is the knowledge about the Brahman and Atman, the real relationship between these two aspects. That will give you, or the real identity of the self. What is the self? And once you have that reality or the true knowledge of the self, then things are very evident and clear for you. Third one is, that is of what we have seen, Upanishad. Upa means it's a prefix to either a noun or a verb having different meaning. It could be an advice, Upa, given to the students who sit nearby. And therefore, connecting all the three interpretations we say, if we go by the other meanings or take into consideration all the three and say, Upanishads means an instruction or advice given by a teacher in close proximity from a higher ground of awareness. As we have said, the teacher is sitting on an elevated position, is showing that the teacher has got little more awareness about the things, or more of that of the reality, the Brahman. So a teacher is giving an instruction or advice by a teacher in close proximity from a higher ground of awareness, that is Upa, to the students who are sitting below, Ni, regarding the destruction, that is Shad, of ignorance and bondage. So that in a way gives us a real meaning, understanding of Upanishad. So it is going to take you, or going to give you the true wisdom in order to destroy the ignorance. So ignorance is going to be eliminated. So two things which are very well insisted here is knowledge and ignorance. So that is what is being insisted here. Two types of knowledge are mentioned in some Upanishads, such as Isha Upanishads and even in the Bhagavad Gita, which is considered by some as an Upanishads itself. They are knowledge of the rituals, Karma Kanta, and the knowledge of liberation, Jnana Kanta. So in some of the Upanishads, two types of knowledge are mentioned. So we are dealing with the two important elements in the Upanishad, knowledge and ignorance. So that is what is said to be, that is eliminated. When the knowledge comes, ignorance is eliminated, or it vanishes, disappears. So when you don't have the true knowledge, then what remains in you is the ignorance. So you continue in your ignorance, and therefore you are not able to really see your identity or realize the real true self of yours. What is that self? So it gets clogged in, or it gets immersed in all the worldly knowledge, and therefore you remain under the bondage of ignorance, or continuous birth, death and rebirth. It goes on the process, or the samsara way of life. So true knowledge once you have, then you are going to put an end to this cyclic birth, death, rebirth, so that you will be free, no more of that. So that seems to be the point of liberation. So there are two types of knowledge mentioned in the Upanishads, especially in the Isha Upanishad, and also we come across the same in the Bhagavad Gita by some of them, or it's also considered to be one of the Upanishadic teaching, that's Bhagavad Gita. They are knowledge of rituals, Karmakanta, and knowledge of liberation, Jnanakanta. So we have the Karma Marga and Jnana Marga. So leading you to liberation, that the classical margas are of that of Bhakti Marga, Jnana Marga, Karma Marga. So three ways, you can select one of these ways in order to reach liberation. So you can have either Karma Marga or Jnana Marga or Bhakti Marga. So they are suited to your way of life. So here two types of knowledge which are mentioned here is the knowledge of the rituals, Karma Kanta, and knowledge of liberation, Jnana Kanta. They are also alternatively described as Vidya and Avidya. Vidya and Avidya, knowledge and ignorance. So these two types of knowledge are termed as Vidya and Avidya, knowledge and ignorance. Vidya is the knowledge of self, that is Jnana Kanta. Vidya is the knowledge of the self, Jnana Kanta, which leads to liberation and immortality. That is, Jnana Kanta leads you to the path of liberation and immortality. Those who attain it go to the world of Brahman by the sunlit path of immortal gods, Devayana. Avidya is the knowledge of sacrifices, rites, rituals, including worldly knowledge, which helps individuals to appease gods and fulfill their desires. So what is the other? That is, one is Vidya and Avidya. Avidya is said about the knowledge about the rituals and the sacrifices, rites, including worldly knowledge, which helps the individuals to appease gods and fulfill their desires. It leads to rebirth, suffering, extreme cases of punishment in the lower, darker worlds. So that is the Avidya. The Upanishads, however, do not ignore the importance of worldly knowledge and the obligations of worldly life. So it in no way it discards the worldly knowledge, without which the world cannot continue. So you need the worldly knowledge. By renunciation of the worldly life alone, one does not have to practice spirituality to achieve liberation. One can live the life of a householder and still achieve the goal by leading the wholesome and virtuous life. So it is not necessary, that means early the age-old spirituality what we have heard is to run away from the world. If you really want to lead a path of sanctity or a saintly life, or a religious life, then you have to flee from the world. That is the type of spirituality, we can call that the monastic spirituality of that. Run away from the world. So now it is no longer going to be that. You have to live in the midst of the world, and here you have to really understand what or differentiate between the good and that which is not good. So you are going to be in the world. There is no question of fleeing from the world or running away from the world. In the midst of all that, you find yourself, the true identity of yours. That is going to be the real wisdom or the knowledge which you are going to have. So one can live as a life of a householder and still achieve the goal by leading a wholesome or virtuous life. So that is the type of the spirituality which is being said here. Hence, they urge people to practice balance and moderation and pursue both types of knowledge. Which are the two types of knowledge? Karma Kanta and Jnana Kanta. The knowledge about the rituals, which includes all the worldly knowledge too, and the Jnana Kanta, the knowledge which leads you to liberation. So hence, what is mostly advised is that you have a balance of moderation and pursue both types of knowledge. One should pursue worldly knowledge, that is avidya, to perform obligatory duties and ensure the condition of the world's and family lineage. So why do you require the worldly knowledge? So that to keep that equilibrium, or the moment or the things which you need to do as a person to ensure the continuation of the world's, the family lineage. You need to know to have the worldly knowledge or to perform the obligatory duties. Once those obligations are met, one should pursue the spiritual knowledge, that is vidya, and strive for liberation. So we can see the stages which they have already in the Indian philosophy, what they have given, that is the 4 stages of a human person, that is the student life, then that's called brahmacharya, grahastha, vanaprastha and sannyasa. So 4 stages are visualized, so that when a student, that brahmacharya stages of that student life, he is totally dedicated to that. So brahmacharya, grahastha is the settled life, married life, a householder. Then vanaprastha, so slowly settling, and he is slowly moving into the search. Then sannyasa, total pure wanderer, nothing, he has no more bondage to or no more connections to the worldly life. He is in search of that truth. So we can see here, you need the knowledge of both the worldly knowledge and that of the vidya and avidya. Avidya is considered to be the knowledge of the rituals, the other aspects, and the worldly knowledge is attached to that. So you need that in order to perform this obligatory duties and make sure that a continuation of the world and the family lineage. Once that is settled, that is the 3 or the 4 stages what is shown here. That is brahmacharya, grahastha, vanaprastha and sannyasa. So a man totally freed from all his obligations and goes in search of the true self.